Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name is FPL Phillips and this time is going to be my Game Week 7 team selection. I've got a free transfer considering some hits as well, and overall a bit of a mess my team is looking at the moment. Wasn't the best Game Week 6, so we have some surgery that I'm looking to do to my side. So without any further ado, make sure to subscribe if you're new. But let's get into things. And so my current overall rank is not looking too bad, still inside the top 1 million, but not as nice as it was looking a couple of weeks ago. Overall, we have dropped down the rankings, but my transfer in Game Week 6 and transfers didn't go too badly. One of them did pay off a lot more than the other one. In goal for me this week, however, is going to once again be Johnston, who's kept his place for now in the Crystal Palace side. He has got a trickier fixture this week going up against Manchester United, but there wasn't a single big chance in the game against Fulham. Could take that as Fulham being a poor attack. You can also take it as Crystal Palace being a strong defence. They have been a very formidable back line towards the back end of last season and also into this season as well, which is part of my thinking for going for Johnston from the start in the first place. So a nice 8 points from him in Game Week 6. I do, of course, have Turner down there on my bench as well, alongside the other ones who are going to spoil as those other defensive options who I'm benching this week. But yeah, Johnston, the goalkeeper dilemma, could definitely be one I'm looking to move on in the near future. Perhaps just isn't enough of a priority this week, but if I didn't have any other changes to make, would potentially consider it. That being said, when I do have the one free transfer, am I going to just use the one free transfer on a goalkeeper move rather than just rolling and then maybe having two for next week? Probably not. A lot of this depends on where my wildcard will be played, and to be honest, mine is not as set in stone as some other people's. Could even consider activating it this week, to be honest, with how the rest of the team is looking, which we'll get onto just now. But I'm happy with Johnston for now. I'm willing to start him in this fixture as well over Turner, who faces Brentford at home. I don't think that's too bad of a fixture for Nottingham Forest, but I think Crystal Palace are going to do pretty well with their fixtures, and even a tough away game at Manchester United, it could be one of those jammy ones where somehow they come away with a clean sheet, and in that case, where you go to Old Trafford and you keep a clean sheet, the goalkeepers in FPL will do very well, and hopefully make a couple of saves as well. So Johnston's in goal for now. In the defence, we're looking at a nicer set of fixtures really, but one glaringly obvious problem in this back line. And it's not Kabore, who has this double game week, and it's not Botman as well, who was my transfer in last week. Didn't end up bringing him in for Rico Henry, who is unfortunately out for the rest of the season, it's looking like, or a very serious length of time anyway. But it's Ben Chilwell who seems to have lost his place in that Chelsea 11. People will probably be predicting whether or not he's going to start this one against Fulham in Game Week 7. But personally, he's just on the chopping block for me. I would even consider starting Adoyi or Estepinian ahead of him if Chilwell doesn't actually leave my side this week with that one free transfer that I've got, or maybe even for a hit. I'm looking at the pretty obvious replacement that is Kieran Trippier, 18 points in Game Week 6 on all those set pieces. Things that lend themselves very well to him doing well. There was that stat, of course, Sheffield United, very poor from set pieces. Part of my thinking for my transfers this week as well is maybe playing into that a little bit with who I'm thinking for to go for maybe in my midfield. But yeah, Trippier is probably the one who I will bring in. Burnley at home is a very nice fixture for Newcastle, who seem to be building up a bit of defensive momentum. So yeah, another clean sheet in that one is definitely on the cards, I think. So that is a pretty obvious standard move. I've got 2.8 million in the bank, so no need to worry about funds with that one. But in midfield is where I'm looking at maybe making another change. And we have got a few flags at the moment with Bukayo Saka and James Maddison seeming doubts. Maddison looks quite positive at the moment. The news seems to be that he'll be back and ready for the Liverpool game. However, Bukayo Saka, there's been some breaking news today, really, on the Tuesday as I'm recording this, that he's been suffering with an injury that we've kind of known, but Arteta is once again playing it up. So whether that's just mentioning it, but he's going to play Saka through it, which we have seen, and to be honest, if I had to predict right now, I would say we're going to see that again at the weekend. But there are some important games coming up for Arsenal as well, so there equally could be a chance to maybe rest Saka for this one against Bournemouth and keep him ready for some of the other tougher fixtures. But if Saka looks a doubtful this weekend, then I could definitely consider shipping him out over the likes of Mbeumo, who's got a very nice fixture against Forest, Foden, who I'm still very happy to keep, and then Marcus Rashford, who, again, I kind of have to keep, even though I'm playing him against my goalkeeper in my starting 11. I think Bukayo Saka could maybe be the one for the chopping block, and maybe one that I would bring in later down the line with my wild card. And I'm looking at someone like a James Ward-Prowse, or maybe even a Jared Bowen of West Ham. As I mentioned, with that Sheffield United side looking very weak, set pieces go in favour of Maddison, but Jared Bowen has also been very good in the air so far this season, is something I've been noticing. Getting a lot of headed chances in particular. Could maybe see that continue against Sheffield United. So very torn between those two at the moment. Could very easily opt for one of them, even as maybe a little bit more of a short-term punt. But like I said, wildcard is probably just around the corner anyway inside the next 3 game weeks. So I'm willing to take a few more risks, move away from the template, and then, if need be, I can fall back on it on the wildcard when I imagine a lot of people will have relatively similar looking teams. So that's another transfer thought that I am weighing up. One area where I'm not looking at transfers, despite the fact that, Morris does look a very nice pick, is in the striker department. I have Erling Haaland and Alvarez, who was my other transfer in last week. So he's in my side, brought him in for Nicholas Jackson, ended up tying with him on 1 point anyway. Wouldn't have minded having Jackson in for this week against Fulham, but he's just doing the Chelsea striker's curse of massively underperforming his XG. And yeah, happy with Alvarez, happy with the Man City triple up on attack, to be honest. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong midweek, and we're all looking good for them and those 3 to start. But as those players do return, who Man City have been missing through injury, the likes of Bernardo, Grealish, who's been out as well, I'm not getting my hopes up too much that I'm going to see the same level of minutes that we've been seeing, especially from the likes of Foden, maybe down the line, and he might be one that I have to ship out in the next couple of weeks as well. We then have a Dogi down there on the bench along with Estupinian as well, so I do have defenders who can come in for later game weeks. It's just this game week in particular. Outside of Kabore, who's just got a double, and Botman with a nice fixture, I don't look too good with with Chilwell, who's going to move to Trippier as my third defender. So I'll be happy with Trippier in my side. That's probably going to be the bog standard move I do. The other thing I could do is, with the striker department, I could move Mubama to Morris. So that could be another option, and then bench one of my midfielders. So if Saka's looking in doubt, that is another option that I could go for. I just don't like that. That gives me a front 8 where I'm probably just going to bench Morris from there on out, and the funds will be held up there. But like I said, with the wildcard around the corner, it's definitely something I'm considering. And if you are bringing in Morris, maybe even he can be a captaincy option for you. And so yeah, Morris could definitely be a captain call as well. 7.9 predicted points by the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm this week compared to Erling Haaland's 6.9. Of course, he's a major differential with Haaland at a live ownership of over 93%. And you get that extra fixture in this game week. Against Everton and against Burnley, you'd have to back there to be some goals. Unfortunately, although you're getting 2 fixtures in this one, Morris has failed to register, even 1 total XG not from penalties this season, and Luton overall are looking a much worse attack than Manchester City. 1.41 XG compared to Man City's 2.35 per 90 so far this season. So yeah, not looking too strong. That should say 23-24 over on the left, so the stats are for this year. But overall, still looking at Haaland for the captain's armband in my side. Even if I were to bring Morris in, I would still captain Erling Haaland most likely, which does take away from the appeal of the transfer slightly. Of course, if you're captaining a player who you're bringing in, there's more upside, you'd argue, for going for them as the transfer, and maybe even taking a hit for someone like Morris this week. But not getting carried away myself, I've fallen into the double game week trap before. I think this is probably the biggest of double game week traps, maybe on paper, that we've seen in a while. But of course, it could pay off massively. But I'm happy with Kabore alone as my 1 double game week player at the moment, to be honest. Speaking of double game weeks, and this double game week in particular, let's take a look at the predicted points for game week 7. The top 10 predicted are as follows, with Morris and then Kaminsky at the top as well on 7.4, which is an interesting one. Erling Haaland does come in third, despite having only a single game week away at Wolves on 6.9. We've then got Kabore on 6.8, which is very nice to see. Trafford, the Burnley keeper, on at 6.4 with Lakaya, also tied on 6.4 as well. Bukayo Saka then, if he does play, looks like a pretty promising option against that Bournemouth side. 6.1 predicted points it is for him this game week, with Jared Bowen there, getting in ahead of James Maddison for his predicting of 5.9 for this week. So maybe that's the confirmation bias I need to go for Jared Bowen in my side and go for him ahead of James Ward-Prowse as well. And then finally, we've got Salah and Kieran Trippier, the other transfer target I mentioned, rounding off the top 10. So yeah, that's what my team is looking like. That's what my transfer plans and thoughts are ahead of this game week. Let me know what you guys are thinking down below in the comments for your own sides. And if I do manage to, I will try and get back to you all. It's been rather hectic with myself at the moment, so, apologies if I've missed anything out in the recent news. I've been trying to keep up with it all whilst adjusting to a new living accommodation and settling in back at uni. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well yourselves, and I hope you had a decent game week 6. I'll see you very soon for Eddie versus the algorithm if you're tuning in for that one, but if you don't manage to catch it, then I wish you the best of luck for game week 7, and I hope to see you here on the channel in the next video. Goodbye.